Hello, and thank you for joining me on this video chat series where I chat with people who have created a life that they love. The point of this series is to show you that anything is possible, and I want to do that by talking to other people who have done it and to show you what they've overcome and hopefully impart a little bit of their advice to you on your journey, because I truly believe that anything is possible if you actually put your mind to it and clear the blocks, usually put there by yourself, that are in your way. So I hope that this series inspires you to do something that you've been wanting to do, or to change something, or to get rid of something that doesn't serve you anymore. And maybe it'll help you to create a life that you love. If you're interested in joining the next series of Manifest Me, just jump on my website, have a look, see when the next intake is, as I would love to see you there. Manifestation has been a huge part of my journey, and hopefully it can be a huge part of yours too. I'm really excited to introduce my guest today. She is a great friend of mine, Claire. Claire is like, I'm not sure what the word is, someone who undergoes a transformation constantly. And I think that's amazing because for me, I don't think life for me is about staying the same path. And I think that's the same for a lot of people. And I know Claire has had many paths along the way. And I think that's great because she's brave enough to do that. And they're not just little career changes. Some of them are big career changes or big life changes. And so I wanted to introduce you to Claire. Claire currently has her own alternative health and healing business, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I wanted to say thank you for jumping on and talking to me today. And to introduce you, I just wanted to say thank you. And do you want to start with just telling me a little bit about who you are, a bit of background?
Yeah, well, as you said, I'm kind of like a chameleon, but or a snake that keeps shedding its skin and trying something new. But yeah, my whole life, I guess, has been about change. It's never been stable. When you think you've got, life's going this way, then some dramatic thing happens and then you have to change. So, I lost my parents pretty young in life. I think I was 18 when dad died, 26 when mum died. So, forced life changes then. And I guess they're just having those experiences make you realize that if you do something, get the experience, have the learning, and if it's not lighting you up, then change, because life's short. So basically, that's my motto: life's short. We could all be dead tomorrow, so get the most out of it. So I just, I do something, I feel like I can't give any more in that, so then I change, and, it's all about life experience. So that's a bit about me. But I feel like now, being a mum of a 2-year-old, doing the clinic with ANF therapy and teaching other health professionals, I feel like for now this is it. But I've felt that before with the farm, and look, I changed. So yeah, we just see what happens. Never say no and follow the light.
Never say never. That's what I say.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's true with a lot of people who have lost someone early on. They then see what we see maybe later on, that life is fragile. And when they lose someone, they go, oh, wow, this isn't forever. And maybe it's time that I made the most of what I've got now. I haven't really lost anyone that's super close to me, so I haven't had that shock. But I'm imagining when you have it young, it really does hit home that we have one life and we should use it.
Yeah, that's right. And plus, in my nursing career, I did spend a big chunk of that in the liver transplant unit in a big hospital in Melbourne. And, life can just stop like that. You might get a second chance, but you might not. So you've really got to stop wasting what you're given.
Yeah.
And I think, when you have losing dad was terrible, but, I was a teenager, so whatever. Losing mum was my, I guess, rock bottom moment, and you're forced then into personal development because you either check out or you don't. So I chose to live, I guess, after a few years of grief, I chose to live. Yeah. So therefore did a lot of soul searching. You get to know yourself, and then nobody's putting any rules on me. So, I didn't have to live up to anybody's expectations. I could just do whatever I wanted to do,
Yeah. And did that make you feel freer than before?
I look, at the time, I don't know, but now, it's kind of like I feel bad for saying I'm grateful that I lost my parents, because, look at the life I've created. Look at all the things, like I have done so many things in 47 years that people are just like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, and I've still got another 47 to go. So imagine what I'm going to be doing next decade.
Exactly. Well, like, one of the things that really interests me about you is that you decided one day that you wanted to be a farmer. So you went and bought a farm. And I remember hearing this and I was like, okay, do you know a lot about farming? But you learned on the way and it sounds like you loved it. And I think that's very cool because jumping into something head first is not something that a lot of people do, but I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it was like, sometimes life just sends you a message of some sort. Like, it's with nursing. I was born to nurse. It was not something I chose to do. It was just something that I did. And I'm grateful that I did because I learned a lot of skills that helped me cope with mum and dad, I guess, a lot better. But yeah, when it came to the farm, I just, you meet people, you learn something, and then I'm like, well, that sounds interesting. That sounds interesting. So I was at a music festival in the middle of far north Queensland, like 3 hours west of Cairns, like literally in the middle of nowhere. I'd volunteered to get there. So I was on shower duty. It was a compost shower. I had to, light the fire, light the tank, and I don't know, all this stuff was going on. Anyway, I met this guy and he started talking to me about compost showers and permaculture and all of this stuff. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But he was running a course up there in the middle of a Melbourne winter. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to come. Like, I met you for a reason. It sounds cool. I'm just going to come up and I'm going to spend 2 weeks in the middle of nowhere in far north Queensland and learn about something I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
That was the biggest eye-opening experience of my life because it was at that moment that I could see the truth about modern healthcare. So it kind of sent me on this big rabbit hole journey. So, I learned about modern agriculture and all the chemicals that we used and all of that. And then I'm thinking, hang on a minute, they're the same companies that own the products that I'm giving people in hospitals. This is not okay. So I threw in nursing. I'm like, right, I'm going to heal people from the ground up. I'm going to produce food that isn't chemically toxic, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to sell everything in Melbourne, and I'm going to do it. So yeah, and then I didn't buy a working farm. I didn't buy a farm with fertile soil or anything like that. It ended up being bigger than the healing of people journey. It became about healing the land, and there's lots of backstories about that. But so I bought 100 acres of weeds in the middle of the wheat belt in Victoria near a beautiful national park called the Grampians because my friends were rock climbers. So I thought, well, at least they'll come and help me on their way to the crags. I can go and hang out with them.
Yeah.
Little did I know that there'd been, the average rainfall where my farm was when I had it was 300 mils. Now being a Queenslander, we know we get that in a weekend.
Yeah.
I got that in a year there, and I'm trying to farm. The soil was sandy. Anyway, I learned so much about nature, so much about how the human body works in comparison to nature, and how resilient I can be, and how strong you are when you need to be, how to live off the land. I was completely off grid. My auntie still laughs this day because I was so anti-guns, and I ended up buying a gun so I could shoot my own food.
Yeah.
It was such an amazing experience. In all of that learning, I managed to turn this 100 acres of weeds into perennial grasses. So that means that, and I did it in regenerative, just using animals. I hung out with my cows every day. I hung out with my dog and my chickens every day. The farm then produced enough produce that was healthy and chemical free to sustain itself. It was just, it was amazing. Really hard work.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had that many muscles before, and I've never want to build 35 kilometers of fences ever again.
Wow.
But, I feel like that was a life experience that has given me so much.
Yeah.
Plus it gave me 6 years to be just on the land, with emus and kangaroos and black cockatoos and crazy bloody galahs and all of that stuff that actually gave me the time to heal as well as heal the land. So then life from then became the most amazing experience.
I guess it's kind of, in a way, like you just said, time for you to heal. Maybe something has pushed you there because you needed that time as well to sit there and just be sort of, semi on your own. When I say that, I mean not in a giant city.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was my wife would come up, well, she wasn't my wife then, she is now. She would come up on weekends. My friends would come every couple of weeks. So yeah, it was really
solitary. They help you do the weeding? They help you do did they help you do the weeding on the way to the?
Well, no, they didn't help me do any weeding because the animals took care of that, but they helped me build a structure so I had somewhere to, that I could run some water off a roof. They helped me build the massive chook shed that I used to drag around the paddock after the cows, and they helped do all that. They were, you got to imagine these people are rock climbers, so they are the strongest people you'll ever met.
Good.
A lot of them were engineers, environmental scientists, and not dumb people either. So they helped in all that physical way. But in terms of regenerating the ground, the cows and chickens took care of that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so then what made you say, okay, that's enough of this one, on to the next one, whatever that
yeah, I mean, it was really hard, and I guess I was at the point where I was over being isolated. My neighbors, who were very, very good to me, they moved. Yeah. So it was like, and then Susie said to me, she turned around and said to me one day, I don't want to be a farmer. So at that point, I had to make a decision. Did I want to stay on the land, or did I want to pursue this relationship? And I had been single my whole life until I met Susie. So it was like this big decision. Do I commit, which is unusual for me, or do I stay? So I chose Susie, I guess. And I felt like I'd given the land, like we had served each other's purpose. It had given me what I needed, and I'd given it what it needed. Yeah. To the point when we did sell up and we did drive out for the last time. I still get emotional about it. The yellowtail black cockatoos, which would fly over like very high in the air, 5 of them flew down over the front of the car and then just flew about a meter in front of the car and escorted us down the road.
Wow.
And I was like, if that's not a message from the universe or from the land saying, because they hold the secret to creation, if you believe, like in the Dreamtime, Aboriginal Dreamtime story. So for that to happen, and I get goosebumps still thinking about it. It was kind of like this exchange of thanks for helping us out, because there was a lot of Aboriginal slaughter history on the property that I bought as well. So I feel like energetically, everything shifted and the birds came and thanked me. So that was... it still makes me cry, and it doesn't matter where I move to, the yellowtail black cockatoos are still here.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's lovely, because my husband, who loves to be outside and loves to garden, and I remember him saying to me once, we're putting something into the garden, and he said to me, I said, well, what if we don't want this, or what if whatever? And he said, Haley, we're just caretaking this land. This land isn't ours. We're just caretaking it for the next people who'll buy it. And it's not my job to think of this as my end. I'm not the end person. I'm just someone in a chain of people who will look after this. And I was like, whoa, you're so right. Even like a little backyard we're not in the city, but on the coast, it doesn't matter if it's 100 acres or your own backyard. If you look after it as a caretaker and think someone else is going to come in after me, it's a different mentality. It really... it shifts your thinking.
It certainly does. Yeah, like we're stewards of the land, and that's how I even look at my kid. Like, I feel like I'm his caretaker or who is steward until he is capable enough to then go out on his own. Like, I'm sure I'll probably be like, you're not moving out. But, at the end of the day, we're all here just to look after ourselves and our community, whether that's the community of bugs in the grass or the community of people that we live with.
Exactly. So do you think that your time on the land, well, I guess meeting that guy in Cairns, started a shift for you in terms of moving into a different type of healthcare? Because did you go from the farm and then did you go back into nursing for a while, or what happened there?
Yeah, I did. At the farm, there was a hospital, half an hour away. So I did go back and did a couple of shifts a week just to, for spending money, I guess, because farms are like, you might as well just pour your money down the drain in a way. Like, you always get something back, but they are expensive. So for spending money, of course, I went and back to nursing for a little while. So bored. Mind you, I went from a massive tertiary hospital in Melbourne to this tiny little weenie one ward place in the middle of nowhere. So, it was nice to convalesce there. And then, when I moved from the farm to Queensland, I didn't nurse for 2 years, but I couldn't find anything that I liked to do. I really my mental health was affected. Somebody put me in an office. I went insane, got depression, just it was not a very nice place. And then, I met your mum, to be honest. And she helped me see something that was different. So she put me onto this ANF therapy stuff. But of course, you can't start a business without income. So I ended up going back to a private hospital here. They actually headhunted me. I dropped my CVs off when I first moved up here. And then about 6 months later, they rang me and said, we've got a job we want you to apply for.
Yeah.
So I did that for 2 years, built my clinic in the meantime, loved my clinic. And Susie used to say to me, I'd get home from the hospital, all I'd want to do would drink. I'd be angry, I'd be stressed, I wouldn't sleep. I'd come out of the clinic and I'd be like this happy, euphoric person. She said it was like you could draw a line down the middle of my two personalities, and she didn't like the hospital personality, and I don't blame her.
Yeah.
But it was just something I did for money. Yeah. Whereas the clinic was what lit me up. Yeah. And then it got to a point where I was working 70-hour weeks trying to do both. And I kept saying to Susie, I need a break. And you know the story, I broke my leg. Yeah. So I was forced out of the hospital for the 3 months that I couldn't walk. I could still run the clinic because I had a little scooter. We just moved the clinic home where it still is. Yeah. I think I ended up back at the hospital for 3 shifts and was just like, you know what, this place makes me sick. This is not healthcare. This is not how I want to be. So the clinic hasn't looked back. I've now sustained myself, my family, the business is thriving and it's amazing. So next step is to get the business to a level where Susie can get away from her corporate gig.
Yeah. Nice. I do have a little giggle at your example, because I always say to people, be careful what you wish for, be careful of your words, because, I think when you say you need a break, well, you got one, you got exactly literally a break of time, I remember.
It wasn't until meeting you, Hayley, that I was like, manifesting. Oh yeah, I'm really good at that. I've really got to be careful what I say. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I read that back in the day, it was called spelling because people would put a curse or say words to each other, right? And that's how the word spelling came about, because I'm putting a spell on you with my words. And I thought that was amazing, because that's kind of what manifesting is, putting an intention out there on something. And then when it actually happens, people are like, oh, you cast a spell on me, So I thought that was super interesting.
And I've always, I think in the background, always known, people say, wow, you've had so many like big life changes and you just jump in head first. Aren't you scared? And I'm like, yeah, of course. But I always know I'm going to be okay. Yeah. Because I always know that I can just change it tomorrow,
Yeah. What would you say to someone who maybe was in that position, but they don't have that, I know it's going to be okay mindset? Like, do you think that maybe even looking back to you, well, you never had that mindset, I guess, because you always thought it was going to be okay. But say someone has come to you and said, oh, I'm thinking about doing this, but I'm just really scared. I don't know that I can do it.
Get a coach. Like, you got to have someone in your corner, someone that, like back in the day when I was going through all of my grief and my stuff with my parents, and, a lot of other things came up through childhood and stuff. I had a really good psychotherapist, and she was my coach. I didn't realize it at the time, but she was like my life coach. She filled whatever void I needed her to at that time.
Yeah.
And then when I became a farmer, I had 2 farm mentors. So I was like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? They're like, it's okay. Nature does this, everything's going to be fine. And, and then I had another farmer down the road that would come and check in, make sure everything was going okay. And then, move here, I met your mum. She became kind of like my coach.
Yeah.
And now in business, we've always had a business coach. So you just got to, get a life coach to begin with, if that's kind of where you feel. But I feel like you always need someone. It's like, now I want to get my bronze medallion so I can be a lifesaver because I live near the beach. But, being a swimmer in my 20s, I still can't swim fast enough. So you know what I did? I went and got a swim coach. And all I had to do was change one thing. And now all of a sudden I'm not super fast. I'm no Olympian, but I'm a lot faster than I was.
Yeah.
Because the coach said, just change this one thing.
Yeah.
So if you need a coach, because the coach can help you then, I think, put it into plans. And, sometimes you can't just jump and leave everything. You just got to do it bit by bit.
Yes. Yeah.
And have a balance. Like, you can't put everything into one thing. Like, I'm very strict at still having a life balance.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I think that's important though, because if you don't have that life balance, it doesn't matter how much you're pushing in one way. something's going to fall over. And that balance, I want to say, doesn't have to be 50-50 of life and business, because like you say, with your business, if you love it and it lights you up, maybe it needs to be here, and your other life, your personal life, or whatever else is going on, doesn't need to be 50%, because both of you are happy independently. And when you come together for that 20, 30, 40%, whatever it is, that lights you up as well, you know? So when people talk to me about, oh, you have to have a balance of 50-50, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same, you know?
Yeah, no, not at all. You got to do what makes you happy, I guess. And I noticed, like, we were talking to Susie's family yesterday, you know, and her sister's like, oh, I'm working 13-hour days. Like, when you come for a holiday, I'm not sure how much time I can take off. And her brother owns a business and they're tired and stressed. And I'm like, well, they came here last year. We just took 2 weeks off and went and did everything, because we work our work life around getting the best out of life. So yeah, it was really highlighted to me yesterday when we were talking to them. I was like, we're doing all right.
Yeah.
We're doing all right. Yeah.
It's nice to get to that point. It's nice to look back and go, oh, wow. Because I think sometimes when you start, like you said, you're working 70-hour weeks, and that's maybe necessary in the start, because you need to do that. You need to build the foundations. But when you get to that point where you can look back and go, oh, I can take my foot off the brake, off the accelerator a little bit, and actually start to enjoy what I've been building the last few years. Yeah,
and learning about the manifesting and, you know, using energy. You don't actually have to hustle a lot if you know, set intentions and, you know, you're manifesting and you're doing, like, you know, what you teach. You actually can do that, do a little bit of action, and it's amazing what is provided for you.
Yeah, I think it's more for me about the aligned action. So it's not necessarily hustling and going hard at something that just for the sake of it, or I have to work, or I have to do this. How can I do this smarter? How can I do this better or in a different way? Or who can I get to help me, like a coach, you know? So it's not necessarily that you're not going to do the hard yards, because we all know that you did, and people do, but it's being smarter about it, you know, and making that hustle work for you and not against you. So yeah.
Exactly.
What else did I have? So you've said that you've then started your own business because you wanted that sort of lifestyle change and you were tired of the healthcare system. Did you have to overcome any obstacles to do that? Or was it just an easy, like, oh, cool, this is what I want to do?
Oh yeah, no, lots of obstacles. So, you know, I had to convince Susie it was going to be okay to start a business.
Yeah.
I always laugh, because when I first started the business, it was nobody Googled a nurse that does ANF therapy. A lot of people don't know that nurses can have independent clinics here in Australia. Yeah. Plus, nobody had ever heard of ANF therapy. I didn't even hear about it until I sort of landed in a course. So, yeah, the obstacle at the start was getting people to come to the clinic, to experience it. And then, of course, it's like new. I went back to the bottom of the experience rung. So I had a lot of challenges around, why would people come and see me? How can I charge that amount of money? And, you know, who am I? And, oh my God, now I'm not the nurse doing what I'm told. I'm actually making the decisions. Yeah. So again, had some really good coaches. I had, you know, 2 ladies who have become like my adopted mum. I'd spend every Tuesday afternoon or evening with those 2. And one would coach me on how to trust my intuition and how to trust when I think things and when I ask the right questions, that I actually just have this knowing to trust that. And then the other one coached me on business and anatomy and, you know, all of that. So again, it all comes back to coaching. But yeah, at the start, I reckon it would have taken us a year for me to get any of the return on investment back. Or to start getting confident. And then, of course, ANF Therapy's headquarters is in Spain. So then, you know, I had to factor in, I had to travel to Europe, which has never really been on my travel list, and it's bloody expensive to get there. So yeah, there was lots of hurdles financially and confidence-wise. And then the break of the leg was like the catalyst. And like, I remember one of my mums saying to me, if you just quit the hospital, the clinic will thrive. If you just quit the hospital, the clinic will thrive. And I'm like, but what if it doesn't?
Yeah.
And then I was forced into letting the hospital go.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the clinic thrived. And I'm like, bugger, shit, if I had done this 2 years ago, I wouldn't have had that. But then I'd never have regrets. Everything's always teaching you something. So
I think sometimes it's funny because you know something, but if you don't trust yourself, the universe gives you some time, and then it's like, I'm sorry, you're not listening to me. I'm just going to have to smack you with something. And there's a few people I know who get that smack. And I just think it's really funny, because it's only when they look back, they're like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But it's building that.
No, I wouldn't change anything for anything. Like Susie said to me, there was this thing on Facebook the other day. It was like, if you could take the red pill and go back with all the knowledge you have now to be 6-year-old, or take the blue pill and have $10 million, which would you choose? I said, I'd take the blue pill. She's like, really? I thought you would have had the red. I'm like, no, like my life might have been chaotic until I was 30, and a lot of stuff happened to me and around me and all of this kind of stuff. But would I trade that in? No, because if that was not my life experience, I would not be sitting here. So give me the 10 million bucks and let's make this thing bigger.
Yeah. Use it to your advantage.
Yeah.
And so now you're treating people in your clinic and you have that at home. I guess something that's interesting for me personally is mindset and healing, right? So I used to work for a big medical charity, and we know from studies that have been done that people's mindset, if you have a positive mindset, that it improves your healing, okay? So if you not necessarily believe that you're going to be better, but that you're more positive about your daily actions and about what's happening to you and you're part of it, it's going to improve your healthcare outcomes. And I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts on that, because I guess coming from a hospital setting into an alternative health setting, do you see that with people when they actually come in and want to be a part of that?
Yeah, for sure. Because when you're in a hospital setting, you assume, like the patient puts on a gown, they assume the patient role. And then the healthcare professional is the professional. So it's this definite thing, and the patient has no responsibility in that. Like if they try to make their own health decisions in hospital, they get a really hard time. So I'm very, very big on, I'm an anti-diagnosis and I'm anti-patient. I call my clients patients. I call them clients because they're not sick. Well, they have an illness or a disease of some sort, but I don't see them as sick. I just see them as something's just out of alignment with them. But, I work with frequency medicine, and it is proven that negative thoughts lower your frequency by 10 hertz and positive thoughts increase your frequency by 12 hertz. So, it's proven that if you have a positive outlook, you're going to have a better outcome. You still might have a fateful, if you've got a terminal illness, you still might die, but you will have a better experience with life with what's left, if that makes sense. So and I find that if people come in here and they say, I have fibromyalgia, and I'm like, well, that's your first problem, because the more you tell your body that, then that's going to hold on to that. Plus, when we learn ANF, the number one cause of health problems are emotions. So emotional traumas, stress, all of that is the number one cause of invisible inflammation. And that's what we deal with. And that's what causes everything. So massive shift. And people that come in here, they've often tried a lot of things, and the biggest skeptics, even because I'm very good at building rapport, if you have a good relationship with your health provider, you will have a better outcome. If you don't like who you're working with, change. Because, people, you can see it in hospitals, the surgeons that have shit bedside manners, their patients don't get as better as fast as the guys that come in and are like, let's, and a bit more personable. It makes a mindset's everything. Mind is it's so powerful. It creates your reality, and what your thoughts is reflected on the outside, really. Exactly.
And I totally agree about the whole doctor thing. Having some form of control is amazing. Even having a doctor who has some sort of bedside manner, for want of a better word, makes you feel empowered to even just ask questions. Whereas some doctors, you don't feel like you can ask questions. And then it's when you ask those questions that you think, maybe I could do this. I never thought about that before. And, maybe this is an option for me. And so I think that's really important in healthcare.
Oh, for sure. And listening. Like I had a guy in here the other day who he was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis, and he said to me, Claire, every health professional I've been to, they look at my scan and it says plantar fasciitis, so they've all focused on the foot. I have a feeling it's coming from my back because, you know, I did this, that, whatever, and it only flares up after, you know, 10 rounds on the golf course or something. And I'm like, well, people know their bodies better than anybody. The nerves in the foot all come from the back. So I said to him, all right, let's go down your pathway and let's look at getting your back sorted, which he did have back issues.
Yeah.
So I didn't even look at the foot.
Yeah.
And he rang me yesterday and he said, we're on the right path finally. Like, this guy is so frustrated to be in pain for 2 years. And then all I did was listen to him, assess his back. And I'm like, well, yeah, actually, you do have some inflammation here. Take care of that. And it's helped his foot. And then that's now empowered him. And now he is happy.
Yeah.
You know, he was getting miserable. So, yeah.
And when you do that downward spiral, everything sort of just goes a bit pear-shaped because you don't have the energy to investigate any other options. You can't be bothered to try anything new. You just, nope, that's it. I'm just going to have to live with this. And that's when it's sad.
It is really sad. But, you know, all symptoms are an end process of something else. So, yeah, it's interesting.
So what do you think inspires you to keep going, like, every day? I think. Who are you laughing for?
Because let's just tell everybody, you sent me a list of questions. You said this is going to be very casual, but I may ask you this. I have never been asked before what inspires me, and I had to think about that for 2 days. I'm like, I don't know. I said to Susie, I think life inspires me. I said, it's not like, I said, and then I was thinking about it even more. In my career, there's been one person who inspired me, and it was when I was a graduate nurse. She was in her 70s, still nursing, but she knew all the old school stuff. Like, you know, this had this infection. Let's put vinegar on it, or this is that. Or you got to put this, like all these old school stuff, which you are not allowed to do in hospitals anymore. And I want to know what you know. So then that sent me off on my graduate diploma journeys and all of that. But other than that, it's just, I kind of feel like I inspire me because life inspires me. I chose to live, therefore, everything's inspiring. Like, my son inspires me. Susie does. You do. Like, everything I look at inspires me. And I know that I'm uninspired when I'm feeling a little low. So then I just look for what is something that I can get out there to bring me out of this funk. So, yeah, in terms of inspiration, like, I'm motivated by results, but I'm inspired just by life, by nature, by, you know, the other day I was watching a National Geographic show with my kid and I'm like, wow, nature's amazing. So that's inspired me to get out in the garden more, you know? So yeah, I think life inspires me and living inspires me.
So would you say you're driven by inspiration or driven by results? You said you're results driven.
Yeah, I think I'm actually just driven by experience. So I'll try anything, but if I don't like it, then I won't do it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
and I do like that about you, that if you kind of like my husband, if he doesn't like something, he's like, nah, not doing that again. Whereas a lot of people are like, oh no, I better just keep trying maybe. And I'm like, it's really refreshing when people are like, nah, don't like it, I'm not doing it. I'm like, great.
Yeah. It's like I jumped off a bridge in Ecuador once because, you know, that's what everyone was doing. And I stood up and I had all these harnesses on me and I stood on this bridge and it was a 75-meter drop into a rocky river.
Yeah.
And I just remember being close to having a heart attack at that point. And I said to the guy, I can't do this. Yeah. And everyone's like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So then I was like, all right, I'm being a pussy. I'm going to get up there and do this. And I jumped. And I swear to God, I died 700 times. And I just remember not enjoying the experience at all.
Yep.
And then landing on the rock down below and just laying there and hugging it and just thinking, thank God I'm on the ground.
Yeah.
And I never want to do anything like that again. Yeah. And it didn't make me feel good for having did it. I didn't have a feeling of achievement. I was like, I've never been so scared and I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, you make it, you do what's right for you. And that's what I love about Elmar as well. Like he knows what he likes, but he's an experienced junkie as well. Look at him. He's like flies helicopters, but he embraced the Australian climate and planting trees and all that, but he goes to Austria, he'll probably put on his snowboard. Like, you know, life is inspiring, so live it. That's what I reckon.
Yeah, you just reminded me of Isabella Adwalder. One of her books is about being brave, and before I was a parent, it's like, oh, be brave, you can do it. And in this book, it's like, if you don't want to do something, saying no is being brave. And I was like,
Exactly.
whoa. And I wanted her to know that, but I couldn't teach her because I didn't even think about it. And then I was like, holy shit, I want her to be able to say no when she doesn't want to do something. I don't want her to jump off a bridge in Ecuador when she doesn't want to jump off a bridge in Ecuador,
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's important as well.
Yeah, no, it is. Definitely saying no and doing something different is very brave. Like farming, where I farmed, was in the chemical wheat belt. So I was the only non-chemical farmer, and I didn't drench my animals, and I didn't do this, and they all thought I was mad.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, my animals were healthier and my pastures were greener than theirs. And in healthcare, I do something that's completely opposite to the norm. And I teach my clients completely opposite to what they've been conditioned with the modern Western medical model. And it's always don't be scared to be different, and because you'll always find people that will support you. We're all like, there's lots of people that are different out there.
That's right. And it's when you show those differences that I think other people actually go, oh, I can breathe because I can talk to you because I realize that you've done the same thing as me, or you think the same way as me. So I think that's important. What is something that you are loving right now? And I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm interested to see what you
Well, there's so many. I love my kid. I love hanging out with him. We bought, during COVID, Queensland the borders got shut, but we didn't get locked in our houses like my friends in the southern states did. So we bought a 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
So I love exploring Australia. Like I've been to South America. I've explored all of that. It's a mind-blowing continent. But you know what? Except for glaciers, Australia has just exactly what they have, just different, but so many wonders. So I'm really loving it. I'm petrified at the time 4-wheel driving, but I'm loving having those again new experiences. So I'm loving that. I'm loving the clinic. I'm loving the life that I've created with Susie. I'm loving my kid. I'm loving living up here on the coast. I'm loving my friendship group up here on the coast. I'm like, I have my down moments, but overall, I think I'm loving everything. And I'm learning to love the house being infested with huntsmen. I live in Queensland now. So, there's lots they're everywhere. So, I don't know. What was going to be your answer to what
I thought you were going to say Pete the
Pete the Prado.
Pete the Prado.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm working on. I want to do more forward driving. So that's on my list.
Good. So good, because we need people to come with us.
Yes. I'm working on it.
Yeah, good.
And my last question to you would be, what would you say are 3 words to describe you?
Oh, probably brave. Funny, witty, and compassionate were always what comes up for me. I think that I'm all of those things.
Yes, I think so.
But I guess just after this conversation, I guess brave would have to be in there as well. Courageous.
Yeah. Yeah. Brave by listening to yourself and not brave in traditional terms.
Yeah.
Awesome. Was there any questions that you wish that I'd asked you?
No, I don't think so. It was good to just not be asked, not the same old questions. It was good to, really think about my journey and why I'm here and what inspires me and all of that. It was really good to think about that, actually.
I'm glad I made you think.
Yeah, it was good.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for taking some time to chat to me. And I guess we will see everyone else soon on another episode of this chat series. And until then, go and live a life that you love.
Yay.
Thanks.
Well, thanks, Hayley.